Hi, this is Stephen Brower. This video is meant to be sort of an overview of getting into our learning management system web study and sort of navigating and how things are going to be organized for the semester. There are going to be other videos that go in a little more detail into things like the discussion forums, another video going in a little more detail in terms of how to submit an assignment. So this one really is getting in. Okay, so the screen that I'm at right now, this is pwmanager.raritanval.edu. That is the website, which is the first part of the URL here, pwmanager.raritanval.edu. And you're going to use your same as your Lions Den ID and your password in order to log on. Probably should pause the video for this. It's going to take me too long to. Okay, my view is a little bit different than what you're going to see, but there'll be an icon here for web study. And by the way, while I'm here, there is an icon here for the Office 365. And so from there, you can get into your Outlook email. And also from within there is where you can go and download Office 365. But let me go into web study. That's our learning management system that we're going to use. Now, your view is going to be a little bit different than what I have here. But somewhere you should see under spring 2018, you should see computer literacy. So let me go and enter into computer literacy. Again, your view here might be slightly different. One of the things when you first go into the course, that the summary here might be things like postings that your classmates have put in. But I want to focus on the timeline. So over here on the left-hand side, timeline is probably where you're going to spend most of the time. And what the timeline is, it's a sort of a chronological view of the entire course. These gray bars are also known as sessions in web study, and there's roughly, it's a session a week with a couple additional ones that I've thrown in here. What most other teachers don't do is put dates associated with them. I did, just so it's clearly obvious what we're working on for each week. And it's going to vary from week to week how much material is done. In other words, like for this first week, here is really just getting acclimated. For next week, it's we're looking at one chapter in Office, and then the week after that, a chapter in Word, and then concepts as well. So it's going to vary throughout the semester how many things are being done simultaneously in the course of a week. Okay. By the way, the dates that are here, let me talk about one thing. Those are all Tuesdays. I'm using Tuesday night as when the due date is going to be for your submissions for the semester. You can choose to work whatever is convenient for you. And let's look ahead. Let's ignore this first week, and then let's look ahead to January 30th. So January 30th is when the first first Office assignment is going to be due. If you have weekends as your time that's free, then the weekend prior to the 30th is when you would working on that material. Let's just pretend, and this is going to seem silly, let's say Wednesday night is your only night that you have free to do work. Well, then actually it would have to be Wednesday the 24th is when you're going to do all the work for what is going to be due the following Tuesday, the 30th. So you'd actually have to then look ahead. So it's going to be, to each person, it's going to be individual when the work is going to be done. You can always go ahead, except for the postings. The discussion forums are only going to enable about 1 week before they're due. And so that this way they're going to kind of like roll throughout the semester. But in theory, you could over this weekend go in and do all the chapter quizzes and submit all the assignments ahead of time. I would only grade things as they're due. Okay, I think I just rambled a little bit too much in that. The reason why I picked Tuesday evenings, and I've been going back and forth over the semesters on this, but it's a time when I do not have a class. I do have office hours on Tuesdays in the 3 to 5 range, so I'm going to be in my office during that time. Then I'm going to, run home screaming. But then at home that night, in other words, I'll be able to monitor the online system. So if there are any glitches that people have Tuesday nights, then I can try to I'll try to address those. So that's part of the reason why I do pick Tuesdays. So what I try to do, and I'm pretty sure consistent throughout, is that all the deadlines for the semester are on a Tuesday night, and so this way it's a routine. I'm not going to suddenly make up an assignment. I may edit an assignment. So there is the possibility that I have completely botched the instructions for something, and I may have to go in and fix it, and I'll send an email to the class saying I fixed something. Don't worry about having to log in on a Thursday to find out if anything is due Friday. The answer is no. That there's not going to be anything due Friday. Things will be due Tuesday night. On the top of the timeline, now I separate the syllabus into 2 files. One is the syllabus here. This is the policy information. And so then this is information sort of about the course, the grading rubric, what things are worth. So like here, this is showing how much everything is worth in terms of the course. A little information about my response time for email, an overview of some of the things that I should be going through, or between this video and some other videos, but regarding, but also some policies. So things like don't cheat, submit things on time, those kind of things. So that syllabus file is more the policy information. The schedule is the sort of the chronological listing of what is due when. And I tried my darn doodliest to have the my class schedule map the timeline so that the same items are listed in the same order. What some students have done in the past, and this is a suggestion, you don't have to follow it, but it's just an idea. What some students have done in the past is they have printed the schedule, and as they complete things, they actually will go and sort of check off the piece of paper that they actually have done something. The other thing that's nice about the paper, it's easier to glance ahead and see something that's due. Like here's the big scary word project that's due here at the end of February. So here, even though right now it's in January, we actually can glance ahead and see, okay, there's something there that we should be shooting for or aiming for. And so it's the thing that's easier almost in a sense to see here is sort of a glance ahead. But it can also be seen here. It's just not necessarily bolded the same way the other thing is. In other words, here's that same word project on the 27th. Well, at this part in the timeline, it's not jumping out and screaming, hey, this is the word project, because all of the text looks the same regarding the timeline. Let me jump to a future session before I go back to the one that we're in. And the reason why I want to jump to a future session is I want to show you a more typical session. So let me just jump ahead here to week 3. And what the timeline sessions will have is sort of an overview of the work that's being done in terms of the session, possibly some additional information regarding it. Now, in this case here, it's pointing ahead saying that you actually can work, like once you finish this 12 Word 12B assignment, you actually then can jump ahead and do the first part of the Word project that's just being pointed out here. the session coursework, these would be the items that are actually being submitted. So what I hope is that the part over here that describes the assignments is describing the assignments that are listed here. And if you notice that there are some different colors and there are some different things here, a forum, this will be like the discussion forum that you're going to be doing this week. There'll be each chapter on the concepts information is going to have a forum associated with it. Not every week has a forum, most of them do. The purpley thing, those are the assignments. Those will be like for the quote-unquote labs that are be submitted. So in this case, the chapter is broken down into halves, an A and a B. And so this is half of what the word chapter is, and this is the other half of what the word chapter is. Now, another video is going to go in a little more detail about submitting that. Material, this would be slides. Let me just, it'll be the slides that's associated with chapter 1. And then instead of doing homework, you're actually going to be taking quizzes that'll be like the homework. So in other words, after you go through the material for chapter 1, then you would go and take a quiz on the material for chapter 1. The quizzes, there's 90 minutes timeline for the quizzes. There's only about 10 questions. So you could consider it sort of like open note, open book quizzes, but that's kind of what homework is. Homework, you can refer to your notes to doing the homework. So don't get hung up on the word quiz. Just think of it as being a timed homework. Okay. Now that doesn't help us with our first week, but I did want to just jump ahead to kind of show what most weeks are going to be like. When we first come in for this first week, the main thing that we're going to have do is just going to be the forum. So for this week, for January 23rd, the only one assignment that's going to be due is the introduction forum. And then the next due date after that is not going to be till Tuesday the 30th, and that's when the first assignment is going to be done. This first session right here has a sort of a description of some of the glossary of terms. And one thing I do want to point out here is due date versus end date. Now this is something, unfortunately, the learning management system we have maybe doesn't emphasize the way I'd like it to. But the idea, due date, is when an assignment is due. And in order to be considered on time, in order to get 100% credit for your work, you want to submit something by the due date. An end date is when it disappears, after that is when it disappears in Web Study. Meaning that the way I've set it up is, now with a penalty, you can submit something 1 week late. After a week, the penalty is so much that it's not worth anything. And you generally don't want to always submit things 1 week late because you'll fail the course. But the end date is when things will disappear. Well, unfortunately, Web Study focuses more on the end date than it does on the due date. So you're going to have to be mindful of when things are listed as being due and focus on the due date. So you may have to look at things at Web Study a little bit differently from that. Now hang on a second, I just want to regroup. I think the last thing I want to then just sort of emphasize in terms of the Office chapters, and we're going to be looking at Word, Excel, Access, and PowerPoint. The book has what we call A and B parts. So like a chapter, like Word, chapter 12 has a part A and a part B. The chapters have step-by-step guidelines on how to do the material. If we were in a traditional class, those A's and B's would be the labs that would be due. The projects, those would be the letters beyond B. And the idea is those would be less detailed in terms of the steps, and it's showing that you have mastered the material that's there. And what I do is I group those separately. So that Word project I had pointed out is due later. And okay, I'm running out of time. So a reminder, I'm out of time.